drama has officially exploded inside the Chicago Sky locker room. What was once seen as the rise of a new face of the franchise has now turned into a nightmare. Angel Reese, the supposed centerpiece of the Sky's rebuild, isn't just struggling on the court, she's igniting chaos off it. And now, the very teammates she's supposed to lead, they're fighting back. It started with one interview, one brutal set of comments to the media where Reese went straight for the jugular. Instead of vague remarks about improvement, she openly called out her teammates, questioning whether players like Courtney Vandersloot, Haley Van Lith, and Rachel Banham were even good enough to win. In the unspoken code of any locker room, that's crossing a line. The response was swift. Teammates who once kept quiet couldn't ignore it anymore. Veterans and role players stepped out from the shadows, making it clear Reese wasn't speaking for the team. She was speaking against it. The locker room, once fractured, suddenly had a new common cause, pushing back against their own franchise star. Among those targeted was Courtney Vandersloot, a two-time WNBA champion, a five-time All-Star, a floor general with one of the sharpest basketball minds in the league. Reese didn't just question her production. She dismissed her as too old to rely on. For a player who left a championship contender in New York to help Chicago, that comment cut deep. But Vandersloot didn't let the insult hang in the air. She fired back with confidence, making it clear that age wasn't her weakness. "My age is absolutely not a factor. I am coming back better than ever." For fans, that wasn't just a response. It was a reminder of everything she's proven in her career. And it made Reese look reckless, attacking someone with a resume she can only dream of matching. Then came Rachel Banham, a respected veteran who has seen every type of drama the WNBA has to offer. Her words weren't fiery. They were dismissive. "I just don't really care. I'm so over all this." That wasn't indifference. That was exhaustion. When teammates stop even caring about the drama, it's the clearest sign that trust has been broken. Ariel Atkins, brought in last offseason in a blockbuster trade designed to support Reese, suddenly found herself cleaning up the mess instead. She defended the team's unity and stressed improvement together. The contrast was obvious. One star tearing people down, another newcomer holding things together. Fans didn't need subtitles to see who was the real leader in that moment. The Chicago Sky weren't about to sit back and let their locker room implode. In a move that stunned fans, the front office suspended Reese for conduct detrimental to the team. It was more than punishment. It was a message. No one is bigger than the franchise. Not even the player they gambled everything on. And make no mistake, they really did gamble. Just last offseason, Chicago traded away the number 3 overall pick, Sonia Citron, for Atkins. A move that signaled this team is Angel Reese's team. The roster was retooled with her at the center. And yet, less than a year later, that investment looks like it's crashing before their eyes. Here's the irony. Reese wasn't speaking from dominance. She wasn't an MVP candidate calling for higher standards. She was a player piling up turnovers at a league-leading rate despite missing weeks of action. She was suspended for technical fouls. She was criticized for missing easy layups. Teammates never blasted her publicly for those struggles. But she had no problem blasting them. Reese's list of suspensions kept growing. 8 technical fouls, ejections, even a game-costing hit on Aaliyah Edwards that added to her reputation as a reckless player. The league punished her. The team punished her, and through it all, Reese seemed more focused on pointing fingers than looking in the mirror. It wasn't just suspensions. Reese disappeared from the team for stretches with what she called a back injury. Fans noticed something odd. Not only was she not playing, she wasn't even traveling with the team. Compare that to Caitlin Clark, who stayed locked in with her Fever squad even when sidelined. The optics couldn't be worse for Reese. Eventually, her teammates had enough. A players-only meeting was called to address the elephant in the room, Angel Reese herself. Reports circled that the tension had reached a boiling point. Protecting Reese wasn't protecting the team anymore. And when teammates decide to stop shielding you, that's when a career starts unraveling. The Sky didn't collapse without Reese. In fact, reports say they played sharper. The ball moved faster. The floor opened up. The chaos disappeared. And that was the ultimate indictment. Chicago might actually be better without its so-called star. By this stage, it wasn't just about stats or suspensions. It was about trust. And that trust was gone. Banham's exhaustion, Atkins' forced diplomacy, Vandersloot's defiance. Piece by piece, the locker room pulled away from Reese until she was standing alone. And here's where the story twists. While Reese was tearing her own team apart, Caitlin Clark was quietly building a culture in Indiana. Even when injured, Clark stayed engaged, coaching from the sideline, clapping during runs, celebrating teammates' success. Leadership wasn't just about points and assists. It was about presence. Fans aren't blind. They see the fever rallying behind Clark and the sky unraveling under Reese. They see one player uniting her squad and another dividing hers. And slowly the narrative shifts. Reese isn't the WNBA's new superstar. She's the cautionary tale. Every quote Reese gave the Tribune became fuel for critics. Every turnover, every suspension, every absence turned into a headline. Instead of hype, her name became synonymous with dysfunction. For a player so early in her career, the noise was deafening. With the damage done, Sky veterans began protecting their own legacies. Vandersloot reminded the league she's still elite. Banham brushed off the drama with a sharp edge. Atkins tried to reset the narrative. And together, their responses revealed one truth: Reese had lost the locker room. When the Sky suspended Reese for conduct detrimental, they didn't mince words. They said the organization values respect, accountability, and team unity. Translation: Angel Reese doesn't. And that's a stain not easily washed away. As the season unfolded, comparisons to Clark only grew louder. One player leading the league in turnovers and drama, another leading her team into playoff contention. Fans made their choice. Ticket sales, jerseys, and buzz all tilted toward Indiana. Sky fans weren't sympathetic either. They saw a team built around Reese and a team collapsing under her weight. They saw her absence as relief, not loss. And when fans start cheering a roster that plays better without its star, that's the beginning of the end. Remember the Sky Barbie marketing push? That's over. The brand, the image, the hype, it's all crumbled under the reality of suspensions, injuries, and drama. The franchise centerpiece has turned into its biggest distraction. So what now? Can the Sky realistically move forward with Reese? Or is the writing already on the wall that she won't even be on the roster in 2026 or 2027? Teammates and fans alike are asking the same question: is she worth the headache? This saga isn't just about one player. It's a lesson in leadership. Talent gets you drafted, but leadership keeps you respected. Reese has rebounding talent, sure, but without accountability, it's meaningless. The WNBA isn't forgiving when a player divides her team this early in her career. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark embodies everything Reese hasn't: toughness, resilience, a willingness to lift teammates instead of bury them. Clark has turned the Indiana Fever into must-watch basketball, not by demanding trades, but by demanding the best from herself. In the end, Angel Reese's downfall in Chicago isn't about one bad quote. It's about a pattern: suspensions, absences, finger-pointing, and fractured chemistry. And as the league compares her chaos to Clark's cohesion, one truth is undeniable: Reese isn't the leader the Sky thought she'd be. She's the warning sign for what happens when ego outweighs effort. By the time the dust had settled, the silence from Reese's teammates spoke louder than any quote or suspension ever could. Players who had once gone out of their way to defend her in the press conferences and shield her mistakes from the spotlight simply stopped doing so. Instead, the quiet glances, the clipped answers, and the lack of visible support told fans everything they needed to know. Angel Reese was no longer someone her teammates wanted to fight for. And in professional sports, when the locker room decides it has moved on, that's usually the beginning of the end, no matter how talented or marketable the player might be. The Sky didn't have to release a dramatic statement to make their stance clear. The way the team carried itself without her revealed a harsh reality. Sometimes subtraction really does add more than forced chemistry ever will. It wasn't just the Chicago Sky paying attention to the unraveling. It was the entire WNBA. Front offices across the league were watching how Reese handled adversity, how she treated her teammates, and how quickly her brand transformed from flashy promise into a cautionary tale. This league is too small, too competitive, and too tight-knit for a reputation like hers not to spread, and general managers have long memories when it comes to evaluating whether a player is worth the risk of signing or trading for. For Reese, the fear is that her image as a disruptor may now overshadow her strengths as a rebounder, making teams hesitant to build around her in the future. And when the league begins to collectively question your leadership before your second full season is even complete, it becomes almost impossible to recover your reputation without years of humility and hard work. Now the question hangs heavy over the entire Chicago Sky organization. What comes next? Can Angel Reese somehow repair her relationship with her teammates, the fans, and the front office, or has the damage already been done beyond repair? Every game she misses, every headline that paints her as a distraction, and every moment her team looks sharper without her makes the possibility of a long-term future in Chicago feel slimmer. At the same time, the WNBA is a league that thrives on stories of redemption, and if Reese were to take accountability, embrace growth, and prove she can put the team above herself, she could still change the narrative. But until that happens, the reality is clear. Reese is walking on a thin line between potential stardom and an early career derailment, and the next chapter she writes will determine whether she becomes a leader who learns from her mistakes or a cautionary tale fans use as an example of wasted talent. So here's the big question for you. Is Angel Reese simply going through the kind of early career growing pains that every young star faces? Or has she already burned too many bridges to ever be the true leader Chicago hoped for? Because right now, the difference between her and Caitlin Clark couldn't be clearer. One is dividing her locker room while the other is uniting hers. And fans everywhere are starting to make their choice. But what do you think? Should the Chicago Sky cut their losses and move on from Reese? Or do you believe she can flip this script and turn her career around? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because I'll be diving in and featuring the best takes in our next video. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the biggest WNBA controversies and rivalries. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next, because this season's drama is only heating up.